let's go 24 hours without law enforcement and see what happens to your city. Yeah. I don't care where you live. Let's see what happens.
It's the purge, man. We've had veterans on our podcast where they've served in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And when you have these discussions with them talking about, what was it like overseas, a lot of them say those people just want to be left alone.
Welcome back to the IA Guy, a police podcast here. We're your host, Marlon Marachi. We've already established, after doing this for a year and a half, that all guests are special. I already know that. But this is a little bit different because I was fortunate to be a guest on the Wise Not podcast. And I have Armond and Arno. And right off the bat, I got to know, healthcare industry and the real estate industry. And somehow, some way, we just said, you know what? Let's start a podcast. Is that how it went down, or maybe you can kind of fill in the blanks there?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it, and looking to collaborate with you and a lot of the people that you've introduced us to, and obviously the people that we've introduced you to. But dude, the way this all started it was probably mid 2018.
Okay.
And the Trump administration was in office at the time. And on Facebook, Armand, myself, and two other of our co-hosts at the time were very active on Facebook regarding what was going on in America, what was going on in California, and then what was going on in LA. Mm-hmm. And somebody in the comments one time said, I'm always seeing you guys go at it on these posts. Why don't you guys start a podcast? And at the time, we didn't really consider it. Mm-hmm. But then one day, this guy and I kind of DM'd each other on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. But and we were like, hey, you guys want to maybe sit down and have a conversation? And at the time when we started, we were 4. It was Armand, myself, Edgar, and another individual who we're not going to name drop, but
okay.
But we're like, all right.
Well, they're going to watch, so.
Oh, they watch all our shit, trust me. But anyways, we sat down with the 4 of us, and we're like, what do we want to do? What do we want to achieve with this? And we're like, you know what? Let's sit down and kind of do like a little Monday night thing where we sit down and go live and talk to people. And one thing led to another. We were like, what do we call ourselves? A couple names were kind of drawn out.
Yeah.
We had the 4 Horsemen. We had
which, aren't you glad we didn't go with the 4 Horsemen? Because it sounds like a Chippendale dance crew or something, right?
In a billboard on your way to Vegas. Is that what it sounds like?
I know.
1, 2. So it's your fault.
Yeah.
That all this started. Would that be safe to say, or
Well, I mean, it was kind of it was a group idea in a sense, but we got together at my office. We're like, okay, so how do we do this? We go on Amazon. We told, one of the guys, like, why don't you just order some equipment? Let's see what happens. So we ordered literally a mixer, couple of mics, no camera at the time. Uh-huh. So we just started recording some audio, like Arno said, Monday nights.
Right.
And after 2 or 3 episodes, the feedback we're getting is, we want to see you guys. We don't want to just hear your voices. So then we're like, okay, maybe we should get a webcam. So we get one of those, what was it, like a $40?
Stuck in the computer or something, like a little web camera.
Originally, we got like a freaking one of those home camcorders, and we ran like this giant wire to a MacBook Pro, and it looks disastrous when you look at it. And that episode is actually still up on Facebook, I believe. But yeah, I mean, people were like, we want to see who you guys are, and we started doing Monday Night Lives. We held each other accountable. Which is one thing that we'll kind of talk about with you as well, because accountability for us is very, very important. Mm-hmm. We're doing this every Monday night, and if somebody can't make it, let us know in advance. So each and every single one of us held each other accountable. So Monday 7:30, we knew that we had to be at the studio. Getting ready to go
office
live.
Conference room.
Yeah, his office conference room. Getting ready to record. And at the time, like I said, it was a lot of conversations about Trump. It was a lot of conversations about family. It was a lot of conversations about morals, values, certain things like that. And then we were like, all right, you know what? Maybe we should start bringing more people in to have these conversations with them. And it's so funny and fascinating how time tells you who people are. Because in 2018, everybody was so cautious about being politically correct. And they were like walking on eggshells with everything. And then 2020 hits, and then you have COVID.
Right.
You have this BLM movement going on. You have this alphabet people movement going on. All this bullshit that kind of gets slapped in our faces by the media. And then everybody goes from eggshells to like pins and needles. Now nobody wants to step on anything at all.
Right.
And we were at that point where, and I remember this very, very specifically, it was like April of 2020, and we took a couple of steps back after COVID, and we were like, bro, we're all being played a fool by the media, by the government, and by these political officials who are climbing this bullshit stepping stone or ladder to make it to the top. And who's at the bottom? It's all of us.
Interesting. Would it be fair to say that perhaps you felt that the media isn't as transparent as they should be?
No, they're not. And if you truly follow what has happened in just the past 5 years, if you haven't woken up from that, then you're never going to wake up.
Right. You know what? I want to have a little more fun because I thought Wise Nuts is a really catchy name, man. It's a fun, like, oh, shit. It gets you, it got me all perked up. The names that you guys chose, and you ended up with Wise Nuts.
Well, because I mean, the name says it. We like to think we're wise. Some
Okay.
people would probably disagree, but we like to think we're wise. But we're also crazy enough to, for example, speak against COVID in the healthcare system, beginning, like Arno said, April of 2020, which was right at the forefront. So that's why the name we chose was Wise Nuts, because we wanted to truly be unfiltered, discussing the truth. Again, our truth. Our truth doesn't necessarily mean it's everybody else's truth, right?
Right, good point.
We all have an opinion. You know what they say. An opinion is like a butthole, right? Everybody's got one.
Yeah.
They don't say butthole. They say something.
Yeah, we say something else, of course.
Some of them stink.
Everybody's got one. So our opinion is our opinion, but the name fits us because we're not afraid to discuss real matters that are truly affecting families and our loved ones. Looking at it now in hindsight, I mean, I think to us COVID was a blessing because it really exposed the media, the government, the healthcare system, and what a failure it all is at the end of the day. And a lot of people have woken up, and part of the reason is due to podcasts like ours and, hundreds, if not thousands of others that are out there speaking the truth. It's given people an opportunity to listen and to hear beyond the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the Fox Newses of the world, right?
No, totally.
I mean, just like your podcast, right? You're talking a lot of topics related to law enforcement.
100%. Let me ask you this, because what have you learned about yourself since you started? What do you think?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, man. Because when it comes to learning things about yourself, I mean, I've learned a lot from this guy.
Through this journey,
Yeah,
is what I mean.
and through him as well, because he's like a big brother to me. So throughout conversations that we've had, whether it's business related or politically related or just in general with family, there are things where I listen to him and I learn to process certain things, which is something that you and I have always talked about. He's like, bro, listen. He goes, if you can control it, if you could resolve it, then don't stress about it. But if it's not in your hands, don't
stress about it.
Don't stress about it because there's nothing you can do. It's unnecessary for you to stress about it, for the people around you to stress about it, and for the individuals that are involved in whatever you're doing to stress around it. So it's kind of I've learned to how to process things properly.
How about you, Armand? What have you learned about yourself through this journey since 2018?
I would say probably one of the main things is just to accept people for who they are and allow their opinions to be their opinions, and to, you don't necessarily have to validate it, but you have to accept it. You don't have to agree with it. You can disagree, but let's have a civil disagreement. You know, we don't need to be biting at each other's throat just because you believe in a different political candidate than I do, and or whatever the situation happens to be. I've learned to, over the years through the podcast, to be more accepting and more understanding of, listen, we all have our own experiences. I'm here to learn about your experience.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with it, but I will respect and, you know, trust your experience, but I don't necessarily have to be on board with it, and vice versa. So it's allowed me to be able to just listen more and accept and understand that we all come from a different walk of life, and how we perceive things is going to be different.
Interesting. You know, I wanted to also ask this because, you know, I was born and raised in Peru. You know, shout out to mis peruanos, mis peruchos, mucho gusto, you know. And, you know, you're of Armenian descent. And I got to ask, you know, is there any other Armenians that are doing podcasting? And I asked that for a couple of reasons. One, because certainly I haven't heard of any. And two, you know, we're all tight. We're all our little tight-knit group. You know this. You know, I hold Armenia close to me because I've had some really close friends and relationships in my life. And I know that, you know, we kind of all stick together.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to ask you is that how was the feedback, you know, from your culture about you guys going out and, you know, and being transparent out there and talking politics and, you know, and just quality of life? What do you think?
Going back to your first question, as far as other podcasts, Armenian podcasts, there are.
Okay.
We've seen a ton of them pop up and pop out. There's still a couple of them that are around. You know, they talk about like mental health, and, you know, they'll talk about sports and all that. But as far as what we're doing, I mean, I haven't seen anybody.
No.
I haven't seen anybody do
Several
anything.
have tried, and many have tried to follow suit after they saw us start the podcast almost 7 years ago now. I think the issue has been lack of consistency, which was what Arno was talking about initially. Is the reason why we're here today is every Monday night, our family, our friends, everybody knew we're at the studio. Rain or shine, doesn't matter. There was no, it's my kid's birthday, it's my anniversary.
You made that commitment.
Yeah, we made that commitment, which is challenging. And not only the commitment, but also, imagine, let's say if we do 50 shows a year, right? Once a week. Let's say we take 2 weeks off, so 50 shows a week. And most of those shows, we have a guest. So now you have to have almost 50 guests line up for the year. Yeah, you don't line them up come January, but you have to have things in the pipeline. And that also became a challenge for a lot of other podcasts, because we get calls all the time like, hey, we want to start a podcast. I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to talk about? We're going to discuss cars. Okay, how many times can you discuss cars? How many episodes? Or how many guests are you going to? Then they think about it like, oh, yeah, I guess after the 15th episode, we don't know what else to talk about.
Right.
So, and many other subjects. That's why for us, even Wise Nuts podcast is not, it's not niche. It's not politics. It's not lifestyle. It's not cars. We discuss everything under the sun. Even though our value, what we really push, our motto is family values, how to be a good father, just with both fathers, to be a present father in your family. That's kind of been our motto and our theme for the show. But as far as the other Armenian podcasts, I mean, like you said, they've come and gone. There's a few niche ones out there now.
Medheros, there's one of them. It's Our Heroes. When you translate it to Armenian in English, they're good friends of ours.
Yeah.
Theirs is, like Armand says, they have a certain niche. It's Armenian history.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
I think that's
so. And for them, and, you know, shout out to Vic and Mike for that one. It's very difficult to do because there's a lot of research that goes into that. Not that there isn't research going into what we're doing, but I mean, you're going in there and reading history books about Like, dude,
What happened? What happened
not only the genocide,
45,000
bro,
years
I'm talking
ago?
about BC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about like BC,
Got it.
early ADs, because the Armenian nation, the Armenian culture is a very, very ancient civilization. I mean, when you open up the Bible and you see the story of Noah's Ark landed on Mount Ararat, which is basically it's in modern day Turkey today, but it's historically Armenia. So
See, learn something new.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
we have a very rich history. And again, in the past, we've talked about current events regarding Armenia, and now recently we've been talking about current events that are taking place not only in LA, not only in Cali, but throughout the world now. I mean, we're seeing what's going on in the Middle East. We're seeing what's going on, in New York, in Cali, everywhere. So we're trying to cover everything and anything. Again, we're not politically correct,
Right.
As Armand says. Everybody's got an opinion of something. And the last thing you want to do is go into the comment feeds and read some of the comments that people are posting, because some of the people are very nice to us,
Yeah.
and then some of the people aren't. But you know what? It is what it is. You can't change.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah, it comes with the territory.
Speaking of, so let's dig back in the a trip down memory lane. Give me a highlight or something that just you were like, wow, in one of your episodes or one of your guests that you can think of.
Dude, I mean, we've had episodes where we've sat down and we've had conversations with people where we didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal until it was. I think one of the biggest ones would probably be the mayor of Burbank being exposed for who he truly is. For those of you listening and don't know about it, in 2021? 2022?
22, I believe. Yeah.
In 2022, we had the mayor of Burbank on our podcast, Constantine Anthony, and had a very cordial conversation with him, and went back and forth talking about different things from the LGBTQ, BLM, certain policies
School board.
the school board, certain policies that they were pushing not only in California but in LA and in Burbank, and we kind of left it at that. But when the mics went off, other conversations took place, which
Okay.
I don't want to kind of
Divulge.
spill the beans on it,
course.
but you look at it and you go, all right, so it is a bullshit political ladder that people are trying to climb. And we told them, we're like, bro, you're going to put your foot in your mouth one day, and we're going to be there to capitalize on it. Literally a week later, we get video footage of this guy getting spanked by a drag queen at a Democratic event. And I sent it to the guys. I was like, hey guys, I got this footage. What do you guys want to do with it? We're like,
Roll with it.
roll it, baby. Next thing you know, we're getting calls from Jesse Waters and all these different news outlets. And
You're the only ones that had this.
yeah.
At the time.
Yeah,
At the time.
yeah. And then Libs of TikTok reached out to us. They were like, hey, can we collaborate with you on this? So it's been us exposing more or less what the true intentions of the Democratic Party is. And by Democratic Party, I mean the current modern day fake liberal Democratic Party.
Interesting. Before we get into, because certainly in my show, I don't talk politics. I talk all cop stuff, law enforcement. I'm sure you guys were surprised to learn about internal affairs. I would imagine you probably didn't know the disciplinary world that I kind of explained, and officer-involved shootings and how that process goes. But of course, you know what? We got to talk a little police, man. So what I wanted to ask you guys is, we're all pro-police,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
and is there anything? Has that ever changed? Or has anyone ever approached you guys in a sense that, maybe you shouldn't be pro-police? Or I guess a better question would be, why are we so pro-police?
I mean, for example, for myself personally, and I don't even look at this as a negative impression that I had, but the only situation I've had with law enforcement I remember was early 2000s. I was in my early 20s, and at the time I had a dealer license. So I would go to auctions, I would buy different cars, and until I posted it and it sold, during that period of time I would drive the car, right? But I had a dealer license. So in, I believe it was 2003, I had a yellow Dodge Viper RT10, which was like it's not called it's kind of like a roadster. So I'm on Sunset Boulevard, 1:30 a.m. with my girlfriend at the time, and I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. And this is when Hollywood was all about cruising, going like 2.5 miles an hour, take you 45 minutes to get from Highland to Rodeo Drive or whatever the street was. So the guy pulls me over right in front of Sunset Plaza at 1:30 a.m., 23 years old. He goes, "You're not wearing a seatbelt." I said, "Yeah, I apologize, sir. You can write me the ticket." Then he notices my license plate. He goes, "Oh, it's a dealer plate." I said, "Yeah, it's a dealer car." He goes, "Well, you can't be driving this." I said, "I'm the owner of the dealership. I can. I'm not an employee of the dealership." He goes, "No, it's after hours. You're not allowed to, but let me call my chief." So, or his sergeant, lieutenant, whoever, I don't know.
Supervisor.
So he calls them. The guy says, "No, we got to tow the car." I said, "Look, you don't tow the car. You're going to put it in a yard. This is a very expensive car. You're going to ruin. Don't do that. You can take my license, write me a citation." Long story short, about half a dozen patrol vehicles show up. And the sergeant, everybody shows up with the tow truck and all that. I said, "Look, guys, I understand the laws of how dealerships, DMV, California laws and all that works." I said, "I actually recently got the license, so it's fresh in my mind. As an owner, I can drive it." "No, we got to tow it." I said, "Look, guys, here's my license plate. Remove it. Here's my driver. Just take everything you want. Don't take the car. I'll come on Monday to your office and we can resolve this." I end up convincing them not to tow the car. I show up on Monday with the printout of the law book saying I, as the owner of the dealership, do have the right to drive the car 24 hours, 7 days a week. So the guy ends up ripping up the citation, gives me back my license plate, my driver's license and everything. I come home without any issues. Even that negative experience, which is the only negative experience I've had with law enforcement, I still understand it was, the guy didn't understand, dealership, DMV law. So he assumed as a young 23-year-old kid, why am I driving this exotic car? I probably shouldn't be. I probably don't own the dealership, because those are the questions they were asking me.
Yeah.
But even with that, and let's say other small situations I've had with law enforcement due to, again, the dealer license.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about your truck in Burbank, PD.
Well,
Oh, jeez.
that one's complete. I mean, that one's a riot, man.
But going back to this one, what an asshole.
And
I would have thought,
I was
what
still
an ass.
I was still okay with it because I knew based on the question. He's like, "How old are you?" I'm like, "Sir, with all due respect, you have my driver's license in your hand. You know how old I am."
Yeah.
He's like, being a smart ass. I said, "No, I want you guys to realize I'm with this young lady. It's 2:30 a.m. now, and we're still having this argument about whether I can be here with this car or not. Let me go home. We can figure it out Monday morning. You can do anything you want at that point. Revoke my license. I don't care. Just let me go home tonight." So that's how I was able to convince them.
Yeah.
But to me, look, they're doing their job.
Yep.
They may have profiled me, or they may have looked at my age and be like, "Okay, this young kid, why is he driving this, $70,000-$80,000 car?"
Did you have the beard and all that back then, or no? Or looking all slick and
I
had a
think,
peach
good
fuzz.
looking?
I think in 03, I probably had a goatee. Yeah, a half-ass goatee.
You know what? For the people who are watching and listening, they're going to have to watch our episode to get the story about Armand's truck controversy in the city of Burbank. We'll save that for then. How about you? There's got to be some interaction you have with the police when you were young.
Dude,
You seem like
I was a saint, man. Honestly, like
Did you ever flip anybody off or give
not really, man. I mean, look, being young, when you get your driver's license in the beginning, you tend to speed and drive a certain way, and you get pulled over. But as far as like bad interaction, look, my parents, and I could vouch for Armand as well, his parents as well, they've always taught us to respect law enforcement. That's one of the reasons why we are pro police, pro fire, all pro law enforcement.
Right.
So, like with us, it's like, all right, you know what? If he pulled you over, there's a reason why he pulled you over. You screwed up on something. And on our podcast with you, we did discuss, the bad apples as well.
Correct.
Have I ever ran into a bad apple? Thank God I haven't.
Right.
I haven't. If I was pulled over or something happened, there was a reason behind it. And mind you, there have been police officers who have pulled me over and said, what are you doing? You know what? I was going a little bit too fast. Well, where are you going? I'm going home. As long as you're honest with them, have a genuine conversation. Dude, there have been cops who've let me go. They've genuinely let me go. And as soon as they walk away and they go back to their patrol car, you should take that deep breath. You go, thank God.
Yeah.
My insurance rate's not going up.
Yeah, it's not going up. Rather than asking you, what makes someone anti-police, right? If you can kind of put that up here real quick, I will ask you, of course, we all know Black Lives Matter, right? The movement that happened in 2019, 2020. And now all of a sudden, knowing that your parents, you're right, we were always taught to respect the police, law enforcement in general, fire, I should just say first responders for the most part, right? And this all happens. Talk to me, man. How was that a topic in your podcast? And, what's your thoughts about how does someone become so anti-police? What do you think?
How controversial do you want to get with this?
Well, you tell me.
Do you want us to dive into the BLM movement, or do you want us to talk into the anti-police movement?
Well, well, if you're pro, at the very least, what I like to know is, what makes someone so anti-police? What do you think?
It's the lack of discipline in the household.
Okay.
That's what it is. Because when there's no discipline in the household, you don't understand how to respect the people around you outside of your household. So when you're out and about, whether it's in Pasadena, it's in Glendale, it's in LA, it doesn't matter where it is. Mm-hmm. If you don't respect the people in your home, you're not going to respect the people outside there. Now, that's whether it's a restaurant owner, whether it's a firefighter, or even law enforcement. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's a lack of discipline, in my opinion.
Right. What do you think, Arn?
I would agree with that, and I would piggyback that in most cases it's an absentee father in the household that contributes to them not having the discipline and committing, even if it's petty crimes. Mm-hmm. But I also blame the media, because the media, see, when we first moved here, I was both of us were born in Armenia.
Okay.
I was 8 when I moved here. He was, I think, 2. 3, yeah.
Okay.
When I moved here, I remember all the advertisements in movies and sitcoms, whatever we would watch. The cop was always somewhere in the neighborhood, bending on one knee, fixing the neighbor's kid's the bike chain, or giving somebody directions. And then over the years, I noticed the coverage became, white cop shoots black suspect, or black cop shoots white suspect, or then they turned it into this racial
propaganda.
Mm-hmm. And
the lens changed.
Yeah, the lens changed. And I was like, what happened? I mean, all of a sudden, all the law enforcement officers are racial profiling and killing innocent people. That can't be true. And with the whole George Floyd situation, mm-hmm. the BLM movement, right? Yeah, of course, I disagree with what the law, what the officer did. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we didn't need to make it into such a big deal where we had billions of dollars of damages done. Mm-hmm. And we were at the verge of possible civil war in this country, right? Mm-hmm. But for us, again, like Arnold says, our upbringing was about respecting law enforcement, because, and this is what I've challenged people over the years on the podcast. I'm like, listen, guys, I wish there was a way, or maybe somebody could make a movie out of it, or I don't think it would be realistic to actually have it in real life, but let's go 24 hours without law enforcement and see what happens to your city. Yeah. I don't care where you live, Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, Compton, Beverly Hills. Let's see what happens.
It's the purge, man.
That's what I was
going to say.
Purge. Purge, 24 hours.
Yeah, let's find out. And as we've experienced with some of the riots, whether it was recently with the protest of ICE or during the BLM movement, and I mean, you see these guys breaking into Louis Vuitton stores and Apple stores and taking advantage of the situation. Imagine if there was no law enforcement for 24 hours. I don't think there would be a retail store that wouldn't get broken into, or even homes that wouldn't get broken into. And this is what I don't think people understand when they talk about defunding the police, or I guess you could have discussions about reform. Anything could be reformed. But to defund a program that's been protecting you and your families, that's what allows you to step outside of your house, whether it's in the middle of the night or in, bright daylight. You can't ignore the fact that that safety you feel by being able to call 911 and having a response. They talk about, let's have social workers respond to it. Like as if, it's an IHSS case or some type of domestic social issue that you need a social worker to show up and handle it. I mean, come on. So that's why for us it's important, because especially when living in Armenia, at the time it was basically under the communist regime of Soviet Union, Russia, right? Modern day Russia. And back then, when a cop pulled you over in Armenia, you just had to tip the guy and you'd be off. That's it. Whether you're speeding, whether you don't have a seatbelt on, or whatever the situation, you just paid him $10, whatever at the time was, and rubles, yeah, and you were off. But we did not appreciate that, because it's like, okay, so I can do anything I want. I just got to pay you off.
It was a lack of law and order.
Yeah,
100%.
That's what it was. It was a lack of law and order. And going back to what Armand was mentioning about these protests that are taking place, if you go and see how these protests become riots, and that's what I'm going to call it. It sounds very harsh. It becomes a riot. On day one of these protests, you see the actual protesters coming out, the people who are for whatever movement it is. Now, recently with this whole ICE movement that was going on, day one, you saw the Latino community come out. You saw Mexican Americans come out with their flags, with their signs, which again, if it was me, I would actually take some American flags instead of Mexican flags, but that's just me. But you saw them come out to protest. But when you start paying close attention, by day 2 and day 3 and day 4, a different crowd begins to show up.
It's organized.
It's organized.
Or it becomes organized.
Absolutely. These Craigslist ads that you see of them paying certain dollar amounts for you to show up are true. The masked individuals, the ones wearing the Kevlars, and we've seen all these individuals at the Glendale school board meetings, the unified school board meetings, where we show up as parents because our kids are at that school, and then all of a sudden you see some schmuck come in with a mask, helmet, Kevlar, and you're like, all right, you're like 20-something years old. You don't have a kid that goes to this school. What are you doing here? And the F around and find out came out with Glendale, because Antifa, which that's who they are, came out thinking that they could actually bully a bunch of Armenian people around. And when the Armenian dad showed up, it was like poking the bear.
Yeah.
Eventually, he's going to strike back.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what happened. So these individuals who are showing up to these protests need to be cautious of their surroundings, because if you're there to make some noise and create change, you're doing it the right way. But there's an outsider coming in, or outsiders coming in, completely ruining this movement. And the media feeds off of it. These politicians feed off of it.
Yeah.
And the only person that is, I would say, getting hurt by it are the actual protesters and law enforcement.
Yeah, you know what? I would only add that, you have these, I think at one point there's people dropping off masks. They're dropping off, hey, water, supplies, weapons.
Pallet of bricks.
Pallet of bricks, and my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're actually chipping sidewalk to create weapons.
Yeah, there was videos out there of individuals literally breaking the sidewalk, breaking parking posts in order to weaponize themselves against ICE.
Right.
And there was that one guy who was caught throwing bricks at moving vehicles, ICE vehicles.
Yes.
And apparently he's been detained.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but that's a federal offense, bro. You're assaulting a federal officer.
Yeah. You know what? We've I can only say that the state of affairs. I should probably say the world affairs. Right. There's just a lot going on right now.
It's a peaceful protest, Marlon. It's a peaceful protest, brother.
Interesting you bring that up, because we were talking about this before we started recording, about what stands out the most for me, just from my law enforcement lens, is the when the CHP officers were underneath the bypass on the 101 freeway, and for close to an hour, you just have these people. They're throwing the slab
Cinder blocks.
cinder blocks. And they're throwing. I think at one point they took a sign out, and they're just 3 of the cars. 2 of them were disabled because my understanding is once the airbags deploy, you can't activate the car. It doesn't turn on, and they're just sitting there, being ambushed. Because the position of advantage when you're looking up, well, you can get tagged. Of course, they're trying to, with 40 mil to make them go away. But what bothered me the most, we were talking about this, and this is just me, with my law enforcement lens, is why did it take so long for them to get help? And, you can easily have a mobile field force, which is there. You got your mobile field force units ready to go. And someone's got to give that green light, right? That decision, hey, we need to go to this intersection and sweep it. We have to. And at some point, we didn't. And so to me, that is the accountability is on the leadership. There's no way you're going to let your brothers and sisters, in blue, go through something like that and not have an impact on the people who are making the decisions, because you could easily help them out. And again, we're working in silos, and unfortunately, it's because of politics. And that's just sad. We shouldn't be that way. What do you think?
Do you think it's maybe the chain of command being screwed up?
Yeah, I think that maybe perhaps it could be a couple of scenarios. Hey, you know what? I'm the incident commander, and I'm waiting for the green light. And no one's giving me the green light. Well, why am I not getting the green light to go help them out? I don't know. It's maybe because the leadership, maybe the mayor, maybe... what's that saying, quote unquote, too many cooks in the kitchen trying to make decisions.
See, how many captains does LA have? Police captains?
I would say probably 80 plus.
All right. See, when you look at cities outside of LA, because LA is a very huge city.
Correct. I think at one point we were 11,000 sworn. Now we're probably north of 8,000.
So that now you have lesser law enforcement, but that's a different topic in its own.
Yeah.
See, when you look at the city of Glendale, you look at the city of Burbank, and even the city of Pasadena, right? You got 1 chief and you got 4 captains. So it's a very tight-knit kind of police chain of command. So when an incident takes place, there aren't all these people that you need to go up into the chain of command to find out, hey, what's the next move? What's the next move? What's the next move? Whereas in LAPD, you just said how many captains?
I want to say probably 80 plus at one point.
Dude, I mean...
Yeah.
Once you pass 10, at that point, you're just like...
Right. But when you're out there, there is you're supposed to have this unified command, right? You got the sheriffs, you got LAPD, and you got the CHP that's asking for help. Listen, now, with that being said, there's probably help calls. I did hear, from my colleagues, there's help calls going out.
So then what is holding them back from actually...
I'll tell you what's holding them back. Because law enforcement over the years, I've noticed, has become very similar to healthcare. And I'll tell you what the comparison is. Every quarter, every year, pretty much religiously, we'll get a new requirement in place, whether that's through Medicare or some other government program. Oh, now as of October 2025, we also need you to submit these documents. Now, as of January 2026, we also need you to submit these set of documents. So the protocols, the requirements are constantly changing and increasing as to, we're being scrutinized more for doing the same work because they're trying to find flaws and wrongdoings in healthcare practitioners to be able to revoke your license or penalize you or somehow even recoup some of their monies that they've paid you. I think a similar situation is happening in law enforcement where new protocols are being introduced all the time because what happened? We pulled somebody over. Now we're in a lawsuit because due to the dash cam, there's evidence that you didn't ask the first 2 questions properly out of the 27 questions you're supposed to ask before you write a citation or detain them. So now we have a 17-page protocol we have to implement as of January of 2026. So now law enforcement's like looking at I even see like sometimes people speeding or causing violations where I see LAPD and they're like, dude, do I really want to pull this guy over? I have to spend 17 hours doing paperwork for a stop sign ticket. And these protocols is, I think, what's preventing action. part of it is probably there's too many chiefs in the kitchen, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, could be.
But it's also the protocol. It's like, well, we've only met 14 out of the 76.
Quotas?
Yeah, like before we can actually protect ourselves from these violent protesters. So we need to wait for more until we get the green light. I think that's what's happening.
You know what? I'm a little impressed because you must have done your homework, because you kind of hit the nail. I'm not going to say the last nail in the coffin, but there is a protocol when it comes to asking certain questions when you actually pull someone over. So you must have, you're pretty bright. You got a very wisdom.
Hence the name Wise Nuts, right? We're not only crazy,
You're
we
the
got
wise
some
one. He's
wisdom.
definitely
I'm
the
the
nuts.
nuts
That's got to
one.
be
Yeah,
it. You're
yeah.
the wise
Yeah.
one.
We rotate every
now and then,
so
yeah.
Depends. It depends on the episode and the guest.
Depends on the topic. Depends on the guest. Definitely.
Well, let me ask you this. Look, we can hear and talk about all kinds of topics. Let me take me to just here we are next Monday. What kind of topics, or what is it that we're looking forward to in Wise Nuts?
Ooh, dude. I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, this particular episode, but there's just so much going on right now all throughout the world. Going back to what we were discussing earlier in the show, as far as accountability, right?
Yes.
As two individuals who were pro-Trump or are pro-Trump, this is like, it's a very emotional ride that we're going through right now. The podcast began because of this man. It's continued because of this man. And now we're holding an individual who's now our president accountable for certain actions that are taking place in the Middle East, where you were like, all right, you were going to say no wars in Ukraine and Russia, no wars in Gaza. And then all of a sudden now you have this new war taking place between Israel and Iran, and the United States is involved. And now it's kind of like, all right, we're taking a couple steps back. We're trying to process the situation as far as what is the best interest for the United States at this point. Is it attacking Iran? Is it going back into the Middle East? Are there weapons of mass destruction?
Yeah.
Is there really a nuclear program there? There's so many questions that are being asked right now. And as time goes on, we'll figure it out. But dude, there's just so much to break down right now.
And to add to that is, shout out to my Persian, Iranian friends of mine that I've known for years. I can only imagine the conflict that we create here in the United States. We come here for, I think I was talking to someone the other day where we leave, and I'm on the same sheet of music with you guys. I was from Peru. I left when I was 12, so I came here for a better life.
Yeah.
My mom, God bless her soul, to choose to come to America. But there was, I was talking to someone who, I forgot what country, I don't necessarily know what country, but apparently, hey, this is a third world country. There's a lot of poverty, a lot of crime. It's very violent. Hey, I leave and I come here. But before I left, and they were explaining to me that they actually the military came in to kind of restore, right, the American military, to restore some law and order, right? But then next thing you know, it's creating conflict in that same country, so it's kind of contradicting. But wait a minute, I left because it's so bad. You guys came in here to settle it, right, to law and order, and now I'm over here, but my country is suffering as well. So I can only imagine, especially what's going on with Iran and what just transpired with us, getting involved. There's probably a lot of conflicting emotions going on, especially for the people that actually came here for a better life.
Yeah, because there's a big Iranian community in Los Angeles, especially the west side of LA, and there's
our families are.
Yeah, I mean, our parents are from Iran.
Yeah,
they were our parents because
I've learned.
Yeah, because look,
I've learned it's either Lebanon, Iran, or Russia. For the most part.
Yeah,
you got the YAN and the IAN.
Yeah, well, we're all over the place. The Armenian community, when you dive really into the history of what happened to the Armenians in 1950 under the hands of the Ottoman Turks, majority of Armenia, Western Armenia, was completely taken over by modern-day Turkey, where our people were ethnically cleansed from our land. So you'll find Armenians in France, in Lebanon, in Iran, in Syria, we're all over the place. Los Angeles itself is the second biggest population of Armenians outside of Armenia itself.
Yep.
So,
And it started in Glendale.
Yeah. So our parents are from Iran, but then they migrated back to Armenia, the motherland, and then we migrated to the United States. But we've had law enforcement on our podcast. We've had veterans on our podcast where they've served in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And when you have these discussions with them talking about, what was it like overseas, a lot of them say those people just want to be left alone. They really want to be just left alone.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that these leaders, so-called leaders, will begin these wars, but it's not like what it was back in the day during Washington, during Napoleon, where they were out on the battlefields or their kids were out on the battlefields.
Yeah.
They're sitting behind their desk, in their office, under AC.
That's right.
While our boys are overseas risking their lives.
Yeah.
And again, hats off to them. We salute every single one of our veterans because not everybody could do what they do. And we hope that there is no actual soldiers that need to be on the grounds. And if they are, we hope they come back safe and we don't lose anybody.
Yeah.
And that's on both ends, bro.
Yeah, no.
That's on both
totally,
ends.
totally.
But it's funny you say the whole immigrant thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on The View. You remember
I saw
that, right?
Yeah.
And Whoopi and the crew tried to corner him in a certain topic about immigration. And he said something so freaking amazing. I respect the man so much for saying this. He said, "We are all immigrants and we're all guests to this country. And you need to act how you would act if you went to a guest's house."
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right. When we came to this country, we were guests and we were blessed to be living in the greatest country in the world. And that's one thing that our parents told us was we left the Bolsheviks, the Russians, the Soviets, because they were oppressing us to build a better life here. And this country will be the land of opportunity for all of us. You will be able to grow and thrive here. And till today, I remember what my dad would say. He would say, you can become a millionaire, a billionaire. You can be a very wealthy, successful individual here. But when you leave the United States, you'll notice that those socialistic features won't allow you to do it. I mean, name me another country where there's been a billionaire created outside of the United States.
No.
It's very difficult to find one.
100%. No, when I was in the Navy, I've traveled the world, and all I want to do is just come home to LA.
Yeah.
And I was stationed in San Diego, and I just want to go home. And I'm so blessed to be here. Look at us, to do. It is the land of opportunity, and certainly I don't talk too much politics, but let's keep it real, keep it transparent. Where right now there's just a host of conflicts, not just here in the United States, and now we're talking about the world. So, yeah, man. Anything that I missed? Anything you'd like to add? Besides the fact that we're going to air this as quick as I can. And, I really appreciate it. Any guests that we can look forward to? Where can we find Wise Nuts?
Wise Nuts, you could find us on YouTube, Wise Nuts Podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast. Follow us on Instagram for daily updates as far as what's going on current events. We're posting daily on that. But we're everywhere, bro. We're in fact.
Well, you're not everywhere because I have a little fun with you guys. Because why Glendale? I've been living in the 818 since I'm giving away my age here since 1980. I came here in December of 1980, and I can tell you when I came here in the San Fernando Valley because I'm all 818. I will never leave 818. Well, I shouldn't say that. I probably will at some point, but I can tell you right now. When I was here and I was 12, 13 years old. I never even met someone from Armenia, because you guys weren't here yet, or I didn't even know where Glendale actually was.
Very small community.
A lot of them were in Hollywood at the time.
Really?
Yeah, the ones that moved here in the 70s or early 80s initially went to Hollywood.
And Montebello.
Okay.
And
Fresno.
Montebello, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Montebello?
Montebello, Fresno, and Hollywood.
Interestingly enough, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think
That's
there
where
is.
we have even the genocide memorial in Montebello.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting fact.
Yeah, Glendale was like this hidden gem, man. I mean, they call it Jewel City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Glendale's known as Jewel City. So it was this hidden gem. And I have a story of Glendale because when we moved to the United States, we came here in '89, and we were in San Diego at the time.
Okay.
And then my dad he wasn't acclimating to San Diego, bro. He was like, I can't live here. This isn't for me.
I got a reason why, but go ahead.
Yeah, and then my uncle was like, well, there's a city about 2 hours away from here called Glendale. There's a bunch of Armenians there. Maybe we should go check it out. And my dad and uncle took a drive 2 hours, and they exit Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And one of the first stores that they saw was Avakian Grocery. Avakian is an Armenian last name. And he said,
This is home.
This is home.
This is it. This is it. Came back, told my mom, listen, hey, pack up the kids. We're moving. She's just like, we just got here. And then just grew up. We're going to Glendale. And dude, it's been history now. I mean, that's where we've been all of our lives.
Yeah, no,
and,
totally, 100%.
I mean, my kids are going to the Glendale school boards, or the school district schools, and my wife went there. I went there. It's just but people got to know who they're voting for in office, man, because some of these politicians that are getting in there, not to get political, but are ruining certain cities and certain morals, certain values that people are trying to uphold in our beautiful city.
Yeah. As far as us Peruvians, I want to say in Jersey, there's, a
big population
a little
in Jersey.
saturation of Peruvians in Southgate as well. Otherwise than that, we're in the Valley. And to your point in San Diego, I think the reason why your dad, till this very day, believe it or not, if you go to Chula Vista National City or anything around the border, San Isidro, Chula Vista National City, what am I missing? Probably Escondido, maybe, right? Of course, San Diego, but let's just concentrate a little more south.
Yeah.
Bro, it's just nothing but Mexicans. To the point where there isn't really many other Latinos. There isn't Salvadorians, and there's no one from Central America that lives in those particular cities.
Even in the 80s?
Yes. Well, I can tell you as of today, if you walk around Chula Vista, you're just going to see your own people, right? Your Mexican people. You go to, and I know this because there's friends who are from Chula Vista, from those particular cities. You put them in the Valley. Well, the Valley's got, Guatemala, Salvador, Nicaragua. And they're like, well, and of course, not to get, too conflicting, but of course, Salvadorians, for whatever reason, don't really like Mexicans. And
yeah, dude, I never understood that. It was so fascinating. See, because we do construction as well, right? Like we do a lot of hard labor work and renovations. When the crews come in, it's so fascinating. They go, oh, he's Salvadorian. We don't like him. Well, so what are you? He goes, oh, I'm Mexican. And then he goes, oh, so what is he? He goes, oh, he's Ecuadorian. He's cool. He's cool. And then all of a sudden, the Argentinian shows up. He goes, yeah, everybody hates him. I'm like, so basically, all of South America hates Argentina, but then you guys kind of equally hate each other. It's like, come on, man.
There's a podcast out there with hosts that I'm certain that'll cover these topics that we're talking about.
I'm just fascinated.
But what I'm telling you is that there isn't. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there's not many Salvadorians, if you will, right? Because you've seen this conflict between the two in San Diego at all.
That's fascinating.
So they come here, they're like, well, I didn't know. To your point, they're probably like, I didn't know that we didn't like them or whatever the case may be. So anyways, that's a good culture geographical note that we're going to finish on. Hey, look, Arno, Armand, I thank you so much for showing up. We can sit here and talk, for just any topic, and I appreciate what you're doing. I can tell you that when Hector Bravo connected me with you guys, and we were able to connect, I really appreciate everything that you're doing. You're right. I don't think there's going to be enough podcasts or enough platforms to be able to have some accountability for anything, for any of the topics. So I appreciate it, man. We're going to wrap it up.
We appreciate you having us. And I was going to ask you, what was, because you always have law enforcement. How did you decide to have these two crazy nuts on your show?
Yeah, well, you know what? I had to. I had to do it because for several reasons. One, I would always return the favor to other hosts. One. Two, I would think that as you guys being hosts, kind of feels good just being a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Less preparation.
Less preparation. You just show up and we have a conversation.
We
right?
show up, we look cute.
Right.
That's
And
it.
number thing, I think that and it's not think, I really truly believe that if we're this is just from my law enforcement lens, if we're going to be transparent, like I always claim to be, right? I've always said on the show that our law enforcement profession is the biggest hypocrites there is in any profession. Why? Because we always tell the public about critical incidents. Hey, let's talk about this shooting. Let me tell you about this OIS, officer involved shooting. I mean, it's the law. It's a state statute where you have to inform the public. You got to give them a critical incident debrief or a briefing, whatever you want to call it, right? And so we're always talking about police corruption. We're always telling the community about good things and bad things. Unfortunately, sensationalizing real bad things that police officers do. Yeah. And so for me it was, okay, well, if we're going to be transparent like we claim we are, well, what about the inside? Why don't, we should be transparent amongst ourselves, and we're not. Internal affairs is a topic by which it's not talked about. It's a very hush-hush taboo. I can't, and guess what? I'm not allowed to talk about it. So if I get involved in a critical incident and in my mind, right, everything that I did was right, and now I'm being scrutinized and I'm being judged based on the decision that I had to make less than 2 seconds. Well, where do you clear your name? Where do you go and tell your story? So that was the reason why I felt that transparency is huge, and having you guys on and having different topics, I think speaks to that buzzword transparency.
Yeah, and then corruption is inevitable. I mean, just discussing the 80 police captains.
Yeah.
One of those captains is eventually going to want to be a police chief.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could just picture, depending on districts and cities and locations, what a corrupt police officer or captain may do to another captain to get, to climb that stepping stone.
100%.
But we're hoping that not all law enforcement aren't like that. We're pretty confident that not all of them are like that. Yeah, there are a few bad apples, but those bad apples can be filtered out. The one thing we always do tell people is respect law enforcement. Every now and then, when you see them in a patrol car, wave, salute, thank them, because what they do on a daily basis is very, very important for the community. Mm-hmm. They're risking their lives. And I think we've discussed it with you on the podcast as well, where, you're leaving in the morning. You don't know if you're going home that night.
100%.
So respect law enforcement. Blue Lives Matter. We're big advocates for law enforcement. Don't forget to thank them when you see them out in the streets.
We really appreciate that.
Definitely.
Well, on that note, like always, please be safe out there and don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.